Welcome everyone to this live panel of alumni of recent graduates of textile design at Plymouth College of Art.
Hi, so I'm Hannah SEWARD. I graduated in 2018 and since then I've done a couple of internships. I started at Rapture and Write for about 6 months and then went on to Zandra Rhodes in London for 2 months and then went to FERMOIE, which is where I currently work at, and that began as a little work experience, and then I started off as a general assistant, so got experience throughout the company working in dispatch, printing, colour and in design studio, and also part of the launch process, so went to the showroom, and then I started my new role as studio assistant, and that entails lots of stuff in the studio, working with the trialing, putting together colour palettes, digital side of things, and all of the keeping up on sort of wet room, so on top of studio equipment, ordering, doing all the screens and that side of things. So that's kind of what I've been doing very briefly since graduating.
Enjoying it?
Yeah, loving it. It's really, really great. I feel like I've got a good base of how a company works, and I've been trying out lots of different things, which is really great. So.
Well, that all sounds good, Hannah. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to ask Lucy now to introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Lucy. I graduated in 2019, so about a year ago. And then, so since graduating, I got a few internships. So I did 8 weeks with Zandra Rhodes straight after finishing. And then I went away for about a month before coming back and doing a second internship with a company called JRC London, who are more of a fast fashion brand. So I had like a experience of both high fashion and fast fashion. So that was really good. And then, so I finished the second internship in November, and ever since then I've been applying for jobs and got one with a freelance company called BONNY Print Studio just before lockdown, really, so about a month ago. So I've been doing that ever since from home.
Okay, so have you been working on designs at the moment then at home?
Yeah, we're doing, so they sell prints in Australia and New Zealand, which the industry in there is picking back up a bit again. So starting from June, they've got loads of meetings all throughout June in Australia. So they're going to try and sell from today.
So you can say you're an international designer now, Lucy.
No.
Well done, that sounds really, really good. Okay, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Zoe Woodford. I have been in the industry now for nearly 4 years. So I started off working for a company called Textiles in London as a digital textile colorist and printer. I worked there for a year, and after that I moved on to Lewis and Wood and worked with them for 2 years in a very similar role, but something a little bit more expanded into kind of what I was looking towards. So I did kind of, again, digital textile colouring as well as artwork separation and printing. And then I've recently just secured myself a role with Edinburgh Weavers as of the 20th of April. So I currently work for them as a textile designer as well as an artwork and a separation artist. And I'm currently doing a design for a new linen that they've ordered over for a client in Australia, which is rather interesting brief. That's been keeping me busy. And doing some freelance separation work on the side as well for a recent person that I've just connected with.
Hello, my name's Emma Corner and I graduated last year in 2019. Just before I graduated, I started working as a freelancer for a lovely design studio in Staffordshire. They've got quite a lot of experience, been going about 20 years, and I find it really good because they give you direction on trends and what they want in their portfolio. So they send that out sort of monthly, and they ask you to do a list of what you're going to produce before the next show that they do. So it's a bit like being at college still. It's like a fourth year almost. And it's really useful if you're a student, you know, and you want sort of to learn the commercial ropes, because I've learned like sort of a hell of a lot since even leaving college, you know, on extra things like layouts, what sort of little motifs people don't like to buy, and all this sort of funny things that you don't always know till you're actually in it. So that was really good. I got a bit impatient because it's all speculative work and you're sending designs in, and sometimes they say, no, that's not right, send it back, change this. You know, so it takes a long time to build up your presence in their portfolio, because they like things a certain way. They have about 12 freelancers on their books, and some people that work full-time in the studio. But yeah, after a couple of months, I did sell something from my final major project, which I was really pleased about. And then I started to build up a few more designs, and then they asked me to go to Heimtex with them on the stand, which was brilliant. So I kind of got an insight into behind the scenes there and met some really good clients, and, you know, did the usual thing of sort of moving the papers over and asking questions, saw how things were priced, and basically gained all the inside info, which was fantastic. And saw, it was lovely to see your own work sell at a show as well. It like gives you a real buzz. So that was really nice because they put your name on the back of the designs. And one American woman said, "Oh, you're Emma, you know, I've noticed your name on a lot of things," you know, and that was really nice, you know, to speak to them and see that. Anyway, when I got back, it was obviously just start of lockdown, I think, but I joined another agency for kids wear, because you're not always allowed to join one in the same sphere like interiors. So I joined a kids wear one instead because it was different, and they allowed me to have 2 different contracts. But I started to do a lot of designs for that, but then they decided they weren't going to take freelancers anymore and going to change their whole sphere of working. So they just work for themselves, 2 ladies now. So I was left with a lot of patterns for that, but I thought, well, keep them separate because they don't suit the original one, and just use those for my own purpose and designs. So that's what I'm planning on now. I'm doing like 2 for the Staffordshire agency, and then maybe 1 for myself of, you know, my own things for when everything gets back to hopefully normal in a year or so, you know, and then I'll branch out and do my own little studio. I've also been busy just doing a few homewares designs for homewares products to go online, sourcing products for designs to go on and things like that. So I'm hoping to launch that in the next few months. So yeah, I've been keeping busy.
Okay, thank you very much, Emma. That sounds really interesting. It is difficult, isn't it? When I know that I used to work freelance, and having that kind of contract is good, but then when it's speculative, and you really have to get to know what sells and what isn't going to sell, and it's quite difficult, isn't it? That when you put so much work in,
yeah,
and some things sell and some don't, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I was going to ask everybody, so we'll start off again with Hannah. How are you coping with the lockdown, and how are you keeping creative? So this is to Hannah.
I've really enjoyed it, actually. I'm officially furloughed, so I haven't been able to work for about 2 months now. But for me, it's been a really great opportunity to do things for myself again. And as I'm sort of being a studio assistant, most of the work I do is kind of supporting somebody else's ideas and designing visions that they have sort of made up. So I've really enjoyed just being able to draw and think of my own ideas again, and it's been quite similar to when I was back at uni, where you can kind of just run with your own ideas, and it's meant that I've been sort of experimenting with natural dyeings in the garden, and I've been putting together colour palettes and doing lots of lino printing and taking lots of photographs of colours and flowers and things that I can see. So I've kind of got a really good bank of imagery which I can look back at later on. And I've also, luckily I've got my desktop at home and I've got AVA and Photoshop available to me. So I've just been on there learning new skills, watching lots of sort of AVA tutorials and workshops. So it's been a really good opportunity for me to kind of get all that information which I was exploring at uni. So I've really loved it.
Hearing people say, oh, they're bored. I mean, as a creative, how can you ever be bored?
Exactly. And actually I'm supposed to be going back to work next week, and I'm sort of mixed emotions because I've settled into doing my own thing again. But I am looking forward to going back as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to ask that same question to Lucy. How are you actually coping in your lockdown and everything, Lucy?
So I am obviously freelancing, so it's not really changed that much. I mean, selling has been really slow because of everything that's going on, but I've just been, because I've got more time, just putting all my time into doing designs for them, so that hopefully when everything picks back up, it will sell later on. So I've been doing that, and then in my spare time I've also started selling my own prints and setting up a website, which I wanted to do for ages, so I've had time to do that, which has been really good. And then from that I've had a few commissions for logos or prints for people, so just odd bits, but all creative. And yeah, mainly work for Bonny, but in my spare time some of my own stuff as well. So
not bored?
No.
Just busy.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so Zoe, I know that I'm asking you about how you're coping with lockdown, but I do know that you just moved into a little cottage.
I did, yes. I've got my little spring cottage now on Springfield Road, which is rather fun. Yeah, no, I've been sorting out all of that, but I've been driving an hour back and forth to my parents' house because they've got Wi-Fi at the moment, because I've got an AVA key from my employer to do some artwork separations and stuff, and I've been doing work for them and everything. I'm furloughed with them, so it's not a kind of a full-time thing at the moment. It's just that they asked me to do these certain things, but so far they've been very pleased with what I've done. I've also taken the opportunity to start kind of doing my own thing again, and out of that I've had a couple of people message me on my Instagram asking me to do some commissions for drawings of their animals, actually, because I think most of my stuff is animal-based drawings, which has been rather nice, actually, to kind of get in touch with that again, because for a while, because my job was so very technical based, there wasn't any room for creativity in there at all, and I kind of lost it for a while, and I heavily regretted it because I kind of stopped university and then just stopped creating, and it's really hard to get back into that mindset again. But I've kind of actually seen being in isolation as a bit of a blessing, really, because it's given me time to get in touch with being creative again, which in turn has helped me starting to design for my new employer. So I've kind of tried to take advantage of it as best I can. And then obviously, yes, moving around and moving house and stuff, but I've definitely not been bored for a second. So I can definitely say that.
I don't know who these people are that could possibly be bored. Okay, so thank you very much. What about you, Emma? How have you been coping? I suppose you've been doing lots of freelance, have you?
Yeah, I've been sort of doing the same, but it's been nice not to be under pressure.
Yeah.
You know, say them expecting you to have sent something in by WeTransfer on Tuesday morning. You know, you haven't got that pressure. So you can really take your time over the work. Although, a little tip here, they say really you should only spend 2 days on one design, otherwise it's not worthwhile money-wise, for, you know, what you get back. But because they're a bit more complex, the interior design ones, they take quite a bit of longer time, you know, more detail sometimes. So I sort of span over sometimes into 2 to 3 days, but I can literally take my time. I pick something up, put it down, then I'll go and do a bit of my own work. But it's been nice just being able to do what you feel like, you know, like suddenly I'll wake up and think, oh, I just feel like doing a bit of screen printing or something that I haven't done for ages. And then see where it goes, you know. it might not be that I use that finished product, but you can use little bits of it. And then sometimes you might think, oh, I did something ages ago at college. I'll go through my sketchbooks and find that, and it leads on to something. So really having time to explore your own work, or think to yourself, I haven't done any florals for so long, I'll just go and pick some on my walk and play about with watercolours. So yeah, it's nice just having the time to not feel under pressure to do set things.
Yeah.
You know, I'll have my set thing, a trend or whatever that they want, and then I'll have my little separate section, you know, that's off trend maybe.
So when you were saying to us that that you basically you need to get a design done in 2 days, is that kind of the drawn and repeated and getting it into Photoshop and
yeah, that's why mine spans sometimes into 3, because I stop and start. I mean, at the moment I don't have to go off to do school runs or anything, so I do have a longer time, but I try to sort of stop in the afternoon anyway, because my daughter stops her online schooling, so we'll go and like have a game in the garden or something, and then I'll start supper early, so I don't do full days. So yeah, really 2 days, if you were doing start to finish, it would be the whole thing.
Yeah. Sounds a nice life.
Yeah, it is. It's good. Not too bad.
Okay, so I am going to also now go on to asking the panel if they've got any particular tips for first, second and third years individually, because we do have first, second and third years with us at the moment. So Hannah, what would you say? What would you give the advice to any of those students?
I think first and second years, it's a really fantastic time to collect inspiration for the next couple of years at college, like taking endless photographs, doing lots of different drawings that you can refer back to later on. And that could just be, it could be nature, or it could just be interesting shapes or shadows around your house, or collecting samples and things like that that could be really interesting. And also, I think it's been important for me, even though I've been on furlough, to have regular meetings with my team at work and talk about creative stuff, just chat about what we're getting up to, and just see friendly, familiar faces. Otherwise, it can feel quite lonely if you're just sort of walking in your room all the time. So I definitely recommend doing that with your friends and classmates. That's to all years, really. And definitely second years, I did a lot of reading in my summer holidays. So for dissertation, I just collect. It's a really good time to sit outside and do some research and reading. So that's, yeah, these are some tips.
Those are your top tips?
Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to ask Lucy the same question, if she's got any tips for first, second or third years.
I think for first and second year in particular, I would say really focus on your portfolio. So like if something is missing, or like you do a lot of screen print, then try something else, because I found that when applying for jobs, portfolio, like whether digital or online or physical, was like the main, like the most important thing when applying for jobs. So I would say focus on your portfolio. And then I know, like, depending on money and time, like if you can find an internship while still at uni, I think that would be really good, because I didn't do that. But when I was interning, I kept thinking that if I'd known what I knew now back in third year, then my final major project would have probably been a lot better, especially digital skills. So yeah, I'd say that for first and second year. And then for third year, I would say don't be disheartened when applying for jobs. I think a lot of people, instead of saying no, they just don't reply at all, and sometimes it can feel like it's really dragging on. But I think everything that I did when applying for jobs that didn't work out has all like worked out in the end. Like I had an interview for a company who they invited me to interview in about they gave me 4 days notice, and then they gave me an online brief to bring with me, and it was like a really big online brief. So they gave 4 companies that they designed for, and then said for each company to do like a mood board, a colour board, and then like 2 or 3 designs. So it was like a massive brief, and I spent all 4 days doing it. And then the day before the interview, they cancelled it, and they couldn't really say why. But I think, so I just put all the work I'd done for that company into my online portfolio, and that's what the job I got now, that's what they brought up in my interview, that's what they said they liked about it. So I think nothing's ever for waste. And like, yeah, I think just make the most of the opportunity and don't be disheartened when applying for jobs.
You sound incredibly positive. I mean, that's a pretty horrible thing to happen. But I suppose, you know, this whole thing of being positive all the time and making the most out of every situation is a good message, Lucy.
Yeah, I think I also did 3 rounds of interviews for Oasis as a print designer role. So I got like to the 3rd round, and I didn't get it in the last round, but Oasis have just gone bust. So I feel like, I mean, like, although it seemed really bad at the time, it's worked out really well now. So yeah, I think everything could be a lot worse. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Zoe, what are your tips?
I think now that you've got for all years, now that you've got the time, is kind of familiarize yourself with the industry in terms of designers and names and brands, because obviously the more knowledge you have going into it, whether it's just for it's for university or it's for going into a job, you know, the more confident you're going to come across. The other thing I'd say is take the time to develop your own artist signature. You know your niche. You know what makes you stand out from other people in the industry, and kind of, you know, get confident with that as well. And kind of take the time to know more about yourself and what you can offer the industry. I'd say also look after yourself. Don't be too harsh on yourself when you're trying to do something, whether it's research or whether it's trying to design something. I mean, you could sit there for a whole day looking at something and drawing something, and it might not be turning out the way that you want it to. And I'd say if it's frustrating you, take 5 minutes, stand away from it and come back. Just don't push yourself to the point of where you're upsetting yourself. Because in these times and when you are, you know, stuck inside or you're very restricted, it's easy to turn upon yourself and, you know, frustrate yourself and those kind of things. So yeah, you know, but I think, you know, get to know yourself, familiarize yourself with the industry, and also look after yourself as well.
Thank you, Zoe. Those are really nice, kind words, and I think that's really important. So it's just a different perspective. So thank you very much. So Emma, what are your top tips then?
Basically, all years. I mean, obviously the 3rd years have got their final major project at the moment, but all years, just try drawing something every day, even if it only takes a few minutes, and try different mediums other than you'd usually use, because you might discover something that you haven't used for ages. I often do that if I get bored with like working on the iPad, or, you know, a lot of watercolors and things. I might suddenly think, oh, remember when I did collage at college and things like that, and then I'll just do a day of that, or lino cutting or something like that. And even just little bits will lead into something, you know, for future use or what you're doing at the moment. So that's a good idea, and it keeps you active. You know, you don't sort of feel scared when you come to start a project. Also, give yourself, when you've left and if you're looking for work, maybe give yourself little mini projects based around, I don't know, a subject you're interested in or something, and give yourself a mini brief almost, and create a collection around it, because it's always going to be good for your portfolio and it will keep you busy. And when you're looking for jobs, just find companies, pinpoint companies you like the style of, and find out where they sell their stuff. You know, what agents do they go through, what shows do they buy from, you know, and then sort of gear your portfolio around that, or what you're going to do, or the companies you target. And if you do decide to go freelance, it is a good idea if you can do it. I mean, definitely I'd say you probably need to be working as well to start with. You can't, I mean, I'm in a position where it's a second career and I can just afford to sort of do it and maybe sell the odd thing here and there, you know. But if you want a full-time job, do it alongside your job, or either have 2 or 3 agents, design studios that you can join so that you've got an income coming, or do something for yourself alongside. You know, I've just realised, yes, I do like doing it. You know, I would like to make some more money out of it. So I will set up my own sort of brand as well alongside that doesn't interfere with the studio. So yeah, there's all sorts that you could do, I'd recommend.
Okay, thank you, Emma. That's really great. Now, I was gonna ask everybody at this point, before we take any questions, if we could finish with something, and I asked the panel, I pre-asked them whether they could end with something sort of upbeat, personal, or a funny message to kind of keep us all sane and motivated. So I don't know what you came up with, Hannah.
For me, I think we've got all of the skills and the knowledge and understanding to really make the most of this time. There's lots of people out there who are kind of really starting to be creative, but we know how to do it and we are keen creatives. So it's a really great time for us to not be bored and sort of make the most of that. And I think for health-wise, drawing and painting and being creative is such a healer, and it's just, I think we're really lucky that we're able to do that naturally and make the most of it. So I think we should all feel lucky with that and feel positive about it.
That's a really nice positive message. We're going to all listen to that. Thank you very much, Hannah. Now, okay, so Lucy, have you got any last comments?
I said the same about just making the most of the situation, like drawing and painting can really help. And yeah, I think something positive will definitely come out of it. I mean, you never know what one thing might lead. If something comes up unexpectedly, it will always lead on to something better. So I think just go with it, and you never know what will happen.
Thank you. I think creativity and having that creativity is a wonderful thing, and I know that Emma will probably reiterate this as well, because we've had to kind of do everything digitally, and we set up a pro forma for all the students, and it's kind of made us have to kind of create the work to show the students, and it's just kind of I think for me, and I know for Catherine as well, and Emma, and Becky and Charlotte, it's kind of reignited the fact that we really have never lost that, and we just love it, and that's why we do what we do. So you never lose it. You just, maybe like Zoe was saying, you know, your job is kind of might take you in a slightly different direction, but actually that kind of creative thing, and referring back to never throw away your sketchbooks. Okay, thank you so much, Zoe. Sorry, Lucy. So Zoe, are you able to give us any sort of last minute tips or anything?
I think it's important to remember that kind of we are all sailing in the same boat with this as well, and not feel kind of a sense of loneliness for other times. Or everyone has their kind of quirky things going on at home that they have to deal with. Mine is dogs barking at the door every 5 minutes and a parcel comes in when I'm trying to concentrate. That, or dealing with my moody teenage sister. So, you know, it's not something to feel kind of like, sometimes it might feel a bit much, and you know, but just to remember that you're not on your own. And like Hannah said earlier, just connecting with your peers and your classmates does wonders for you sometimes, and you don't realize like how relatable their situations are to you until you speak to them, because you could say, oh God, I can't do this design, I'm trying to draw and nothing's coming out, and they could say the same thing, and it just makes you feel less like you're kind of on your own in all of this. So I'd say, you know, keep connected, and you know, remember that you're not the only one dealing with this, and we are all together in this kind of boat.
Thank you so much, Zoe. So Emma, have you got any sort of upbeat message or anything that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I think if any students are thinking of going out on their own, or setting up their own brand or business and they're worried about it in this time, don't be worried, because it's a well-proven fact that most of the successful businesses now are ones that started in the last recession. So if you can start now at a really difficult time, you know, perhaps when it's not so busy, then you're definitely going to be stronger and ready for anything, you know, rather than starting in a time when it's really easy and really busy. So, you know, if you can do it now, do it. Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, so now we're going to go over, Emma has been quite quiet, so I'm going to, hi Emma, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm good. You've got a nice bit of artwork behind you.
Thanks, yeah, my daily drawing that Emma do.
Okay, so do you want to field some questions or?
Yeah, I can do. Okay, we've got 3 really good questions, and probably I'll think of some more as we go through. So a question from Jules. A couple of you have alluded to interviews and talking to people about your work. How did you cope with those situations? What strategies, tips do you have for when you're in an interview situation or you're meeting a client for the first time? So we'll go backwards this time. So we'll go to Emma first.
Well, a bit difficult for me because I hadn't really had any interview as such. I mean, basically, it was all emails, writing letters, speaking on the phone, that sort of thing. So I have obviously met the studio and the people that work at the studio, you know, so yeah, I mean, just be yourself, I would say, from past experiences of interviews and things, you know, be yourself, be upbeat, jog around the block or something before you go in, you know, get yourself hyped up. Yeah, and yeah, that's it. Just be friendly and yourself.
A bit like today, really.
Zoe, how about you? You've changed roles a few times, so you've had 4 years experience of maybe having some interviews. Have you got better at them, or are they all still quite tricky?
You know, every interview is tricky because it's all kind of dynamic, but I do feel like I've improved a lot in them, and that's just by gaining confidence within the industry, as well as learning to over prepare for it, because you can never have too much information. I mean, what my routine is now is I just research the company religiously, find out anything about them, like history as well as new projects. I mean, for my first one with Ivo, they were talking about the fact that they do wide format printing, and so like last minute I badgered Norman in the technical department, said, teach me everything, just teach me what you can, I just need to know something, and he kind of taught me through what he was doing, and I would kind of badger him every day. I felt a bit bad for him at the end of it, but you know, I got that job because they messaged me and they said, you know, we're happy to offer you the role. We were really impressed that you took the time to learn about the machines and learn about all of that. It was the same for Lewis and Wood. I researched the recent collections that they had released and how they'd got that from V&A collections. So mine is over prepared in research as well as kind of exuding confidence, because for my new job, she was, my creative director just said, you came across really confidently, and that is what we want in this job, because you are going to have to kind of put yourself forth to other designers as well as clients. So I do think it comes with like time, but also, you know, just kind of researching and preparing.
Lovely, thank you, Zoe. Lucy, how about your 3 rounds at Oasis? Did they get progressively more difficult the more you went through the rounds, or easier?
Easier, I think, but I find anything like that awful. Like, like it was terrible. But well, the second round was an online brief, and then a brief interview, but the first and the second interviews were quite long. But I felt that having a portfolio with you takes a lot of the pressure off, because you obviously know what you're talking about and you can flick through it. And having something that I've already planned talking through, I felt really helped. And also having things to fall back on, like knowing a lot about the company and having questions ready, so that when they ask you anything, you're not stuck there thinking of what to say. Because even sometimes when you know, if you haven't planned it, then even when you have a few seconds of silence, you panic and don't actually think properly about the question. So if you already have a question ready, and if you've already done practices with your portfolio, so you know like what to talk about, and have it in the right order so it's not all a mess. I think that helps a lot. But yeah, I find it really hard.
I don't think they ever get easier. You just get better at dealing with them, I think.
Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Hannah?
For me, as a shy person, interviews are really hard, and I tend to really undersell myself. So initially, it was really important for me to kind of get experience and work experiences and internships, because that's the moment where I tend to kind of really show myself off and people like the work that they see. So for me, to begin with, and before you kind of get the confidence, I think I couldn't tell you enough how important work experience is. And I think for someone who's shy, there's probably lots of interviews which I've been on and people think, oh, she doesn't know very much, or she's not that passionate about it. But I am, but I tend to really struggle to show that off, and I show it through my work. So work experience is really important. And also, it's not just about them seeing if they like you, it's about you seeing if you like them too, and you have to feel comfortable. And I think for me, especially being shy, if it doesn't feel right, it's not right, and you kind of want to feel a company that you can picture yourself working for, and I think that's important too. You have to like them as well.
Oh, Hannah, that's such good advice. I think that's such a good point about feeling comfortable where you work. It's definitely a 50-50 relationship, 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
If you're at an interview and they are horrible to you, it's just not, you don't want to work there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to place worth on yourself. Lovely, thank you. Okay, I've got another question from Hannah, who's our third year. It's directed at Lucy. So how are you finding it working from home? Would you rather work in a studio, or are you happy with your little setup at home?
So when I started applying for jobs, I was just applying for anything. So I ideally wanted a studio job, but the first thing that happened to get was freelance, so I just went with it. And when I first got it, I thought it was great, but I kind of saw it as more of something that I would do more of a part-time thing. So I said, when they gave it to me, I said that I could do, it would be full-time for the time being while I still looked for jobs, and then it would become more of a part-time thing. But then obviously lockdown happened, so I've stopped applying for jobs, and I'm doing it full-time at the moment. But when everything picks up, I will be looking again, because obviously, like, I live at home and I want to like actually get a studio job and like move out. And then I think freelance, I love it, but I think it might be something I'd focus on full-time like a lot later on. So I would like to find a studio job and then do this job on the side. But for now, it's great.
Lovely, thank you very much. Another question from Catherine. Did anything come of the links or contacts that you got from studying on the course? Things like new designers, summer show, or tent. So did any of you find those spaces really useful when it came to networking, one more than the other? So, you know, just an honest account of how you found those kind of manic few months that were at the end of your degrees. So I don't know who wants to start this. How about Emma, maybe after new designers? That might be quite interesting.
Yeah, that was really good, new designers for me, because I made a lot of contacts. I'd only just joined the studio, so you know, I was interested to look at other opportunities as well. And yeah, I sort of made contact afterwards. I went away for about 6 weeks to the States afterwards for my summer holiday. So I wasn't really, you know, like concentrating on it fully, but I made contact with, I think it was the Sainsbury's guy, is it David? And he contacted me. He said, keep contacting me and reminding me about you. And he said, yes, I remember you. I sent a little picture actually of me by the stand so they'd remember, you know, when I followed things up. And he said, yeah, we like your style. So when something comes that's suitable, you know, we'll keep you on file and all that sort of thing. And who was the other one? Mamas and Papas. I did the same. You know, I've still got the file just to keep contacting them. Nothing's come of them, mind, apart from the greetings ones. They were interested in taking on some stuff out the portfolio, but I decided to keep it instead for like to use for my studio work and things, because you know, the payment for the greetings industry isn't so, you know, massive. But yeah, so it was really good for contacts. I found it a brilliant show. You know, I'd definitely, if anyone can do it at any point, then it's worthwhile.
Lovely, thank you. And I know, Hannah, you were at Tent, so it's a very slightly different experience. How did you find Tent?
Yeah, I thought it was really great, but I think a lot of the feedback we had that people probably didn't make the most of it as they could have done. And I know that I kind of regret not researching as much before and contacting those that I thought would have liked to work for and possibly inviting them and telling them that I was going to be there. I think I could have made a lot more of it than I did. But you know, the contacts that I made through visiting lectures were more valuable. That's how I kind of got my internship with Rapture and Write, was through a portfolio review, and also through Zandra Rhodes was also through Claire visiting. So those were really important for me, and I think you've got to really be in contact with and make the most of all the designers visiting and try and create a rapport with them.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, we've got a question from Jella. So maybe Lucy and Zoe could pick this one up. Any tips for a graduate portfolio? So Zoe, what's your top tips for a really beautiful, diverse portfolio when you leave?
I would say structure. You kind of got to structure it like an essay, really. You've got to have an opening, you know, filler to it, and then an ending. But I'd say, you know, you save your good bits for the first part, and then one of your best bits for the last part, because you want to open with a bang and you want to finish with a bang. That's kind of what I did for my last interview. Because if you have a kind of cliff notes to go by and how you're describing it, rather than just kind of winging it and saying what you want about each piece, then it kind of feels a little bit unstructured to the employer. Whereas if you're rather prepared with it and you know what to say for each piece and everything and keep it short and sweet, that's what they really want, because they've got, if you think about it, they've got to interview loads of people that day, and they want you to just be able to go through your portfolio, say this is this, this is that, but you also want it to stick in their minds. And you know, having that opening and finishing to the portfolio really, really helps, because then they're just like wowed from the beginning to the end, really.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you, Zoe. Lucy, have you got anything you want to add about a portfolio? What makes a good one?
I think just make it something that you love and you're really proud of, and don't be afraid to still be adding to it now and like revisit everything you've done. And you might like something you did, but you think you could expand it, or like the board's got all tattered, so like remount things and make it look really good again, or like start a new give yourself a new project or brief. I've done a lot of like collaborations with people just to like boost your portfolio. Just like keep working on it until you really like it. And if you're not that happy with it, you can still add to it now, and you can still change it and just make it look really, really good.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So does anybody want to put their mic on or ask a direct question? You can just type your name in the chat on the right-hand side if you want to. I feel really inspired. I also feel very proud of you all. Kathy does too, but secretly she does.
Yeah, Emma, I do, because it's just so lovely, and it's kind of heartwarming for us, because, you know, we do genuinely care about all of the students, and it's just so lovely to keep in touch. And obviously some students do keep in touch and others don't, but actually, you know, we will keep calling on students to kind of give you that advice, because we're all creative people, and okay, we're all earning money and paying our mortgage and everything, but it's amazing actually how a network really is effective. I've just thought about Emma, you know, she was talking about mamas and papas, and I've just thought, well, I've got a friend that used to work for them. She might, although it was quite a while ago, but it's just quite a small world in many ways, really. I wanted to ask Emma about, you know, she was saying about motifs that people don't like to buy, and I'm kind of intrigued as to what those are, Emma.
Oh, I'm trying to think now. Well, Well, last week, I can't give much away about what I'm working on, but well, I'll have to just say gaming is like going to be a massive thing, you know, for in the kids market. Obviously, that's all that's going on while they're in lockdown, you know, playing these games and everything. So certain things on there you've got to, I mean, obviously the obvious ones to watch out for is you've got to be so careful on copyright all the time. I mean, in the background of one of mine, I literally didn't, I just put like the Pac-Man symbol, you know, nothing obvious Pac-Man, but it was like in a shadowed effect. So that had to come straight out. So you've got to be careful of obviously copyright. Certain, like Paul always used to say, spiky things are always a bit of a no. I always remember that about him, but it's true. Sort of spiky type things.
Actually, that's really funny because that's always what I was taught. Never anything sort of too spiky, and you know, round the leaves off.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm always getting picked up on is for doing eyelash thin lines. Because they don't print well on cheaper linen, especially bed linen and stuff. So all my lines have to be quite thick. So you have to be quite precise with them. You know, you can't, you've got to be quite careful because they get blown up massive size. So, but yeah, there's all sorts of things I've come across. I think, why didn't you put that in? But I don't know.
Emma, can I just ask a question, a general question, I suppose? And I think Hannah alluded to it, and that was about preparation for dissertations over the summer. I just want some advice on that because I always say it every summer, and there are those people that take notice of me, and then there are those people that don't take any notice. So, Hannah, what were you talking about with the preparation, or anybody really?
Well, I'm not great at writing, and I've always really struggled at writing essays. So I was quite determined that I was going to enjoy the process. So throughout the summer, I spent a lot of time reading and researching. So when I came back, I felt like I had quite a good idea of what I wanted to write about. And it then meant that I could get stuck into the writing quite quickly. And I think I wrote it with a month to spare, and I had a lot of time to be able to go back and just finalise bits and really get it to the standard that I really wanted to. And I really, really enjoyed the process. And I felt that because I spent a lot of time beforehand sort of preparing, I could enjoy it more. And yeah, I would really recommend, if you can, and if you know that you're somebody who possibly doesn't prepare and sort of leaves things to last minute, which I would have done because I hate writing. It was really amazing actually getting ahead with it, and it did allow me to enjoy it.
And we enjoyed reading it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still very proud of it. So yeah, I would recommend getting ahead with it if you can.
Okay.
We've got a question from Jules. So I think, Jules, you can put your mic on and the floor is yours.
Oh, yeah. Hi. I just wanted to ask Emma. So when she gets a new brief, does she kind of like, do you start your designs from scratch for that brief, or do you look at old stuff that you can pull out and jig around, or what do you do?
It's a mixture.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a very sketchy brief, and sometimes we have to like propose ourselves ideas. So I've sort of honed now a style for the portfolio within the studio, which is good, because at first when I joined, I was trying to be all people for all things, you know, like looking at the others and thinking, oh, they use a lot of watercolour, this, that, I'll do mine like that. And it doesn't really work, because why they take you on is because maybe they've got a gap in there, you know, for your sort of style. They said to me the other week that I'm the only one doing that sort of style, so keep continuing on it. So I sort of think about that style first, and then obviously the subject, and then I just research it through books, magazines, things like that, you know, out and about, whatever, and start drawing and see what happens, really. Sort of have a brief layout idea. Sometimes they'll want a lot of damask type pattern layout. So that, yeah.
All depends.
Yeah, it all depends. I will sometimes go to my old sketchbooks and have a look. I've still got them all here. Yeah, and try and incorporate different things, like a bit of lino texture here and things like that, collage. Yeah.
Not just drawings then, really.
Yeah, I usually start off with the drawings, but sometimes, the other day I started to paint something in watercolours, and I did about 2 or 3 motifs and thought that doesn't work at all. Let's do it with the iPad instead. So I got a better result for that particular thing. So each thing's different, really.
Yeah.
But in the same style.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If that answers it. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Jules. We've got another question from Helena. What platforms have you used for online portfolios? So have you got an online portfolio, and where do you put it? Maybe we can start with Zoe.
So I do have an online portfolio. Mine is with Arts Thread, just because I felt like that one was the easiest to use for me. I think it's just one that worked for you, really. There's no right one, as long as it displays your work. And it's easy. I liked it because it's easy to link to your kind of other online profiles, like your Instagram, as well as putting it on your CV. And it makes all your design collections very clear, because you can write a description on the side of why you did the collection, and kind of what you used and what it's for. So yeah, but if you just type in online portfolios, it comes up with loads, and you can also get a kind of reviews on different ones as well. But I mean, Artthread has worked for me so far, so I stick with that one.
Lovely, thank you. Lucy, how about you?
When I was applying for jobs, I was using Adobe Spark, which was really good. But since making my website, from now on, I'll just send that, because I've got a portfolio section from within the website. And I think from now on, that will probably be better, because it's got a much shorter URL, whereas with Adobe Spark, you had to make sure you actually sent the link rather than just typing it out, because it's so long that it's easy to type wrong. But when you just send the link, like within an email of Adobe Spark, I love that. That was a really good one. The only problem with it is the long link, but it's a really good platform.
Lovely, thank you. Hannah, how about you?
I haven't got one at the moment anymore. I got rid of it. But I did used to use Adobe My Portfolio. It's free if you already pay a subscription with Photoshop. But it was good at the time, because like the other one that Zoe was talking about, you can link it to all your social media. So I linked it with Instagram and LinkedIn, and also you can put things in collections, and you can change the format and colours. And also the URL was, you could change that to your name. So that was quite, when you send it, it's obvious that it's yours, and you send a dodgy link or something. But yeah, that was really good. And it's easy to use, really simple.
Lovely, thank you. Emma, how about you? Do you use social media as well, or do you just have what kind of online presence do you have?
Well, the portfolio I've got online was with Squarespace. I used to set that up when I was at college, and I've only changed it once since leaving, because any of the work I do now I'm not allowed to show on the public, you know, on any feeds, you know, Instagram or anything, only like snippets. So you'll probably only see like a bit of a watercolor or something, other than if it's my own stuff. So I haven't really done much with it. I'm going to let it expire, but I'm exploring Wix, because they've got an e-commerce shop as well, and that's what I'm working on at the moment. So when that expires, or before it expires, I'll stop that one and start with a new brand with Wix. I think that looks like a good one. But Squarespace is good interface. It's really easy to follow.
Yeah, it's a bit pricey though sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Any other questions before we let everybody have a cup of tea?
Okay, well, I think we're done. I hope everybody enjoyed that. I think for me, it's great just getting our students together and being able to share that with everybody. And also, I just want to thank everybody for taking part into the live panel, and also just those really important insights in what happens after graduation, and also really knowing that actually everybody, I mean, Zoe's the one that's graduated the longest, but you're still on that journey, and you will be on that journey for many, many years. So thank you very much for agreeing to come onto this live panel, because none of you had done that before. So thank you very much. I don't know whether you want to add anything, anybody, and then we'll just say goodbye.
I think the only thing I'd add is that you are correct when it is a journey, and I think one of the things that I've learned is that you don't ever really stop learning after you graduated, and I did kind of go into the industry without that attitude and slowly realized afterwards, and that's when my career started to progress, when I was open to being taught new things. So I'd say keep yourself open-minded.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. Lovely to see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.